Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. So happy to see you all. Hello Eris, hello Scarth my heart, thank you for the resub. You're always such a good sub and I think my only tier 2 sub, so you can enjoy that lofty title. Hello Labcoat Cosplay, welcome everyone. I hope you're all having a fantabulous Friday. I need to double check my boob level. They appear to be insufficiently boob. There we go. Had to move my relative boob levels up. Alright. Hello, Music to Love. Welcome. Thank you so much for the art you did today by the Redeem from Nocturnal Thing. It is super cute little spooky Cydia. Spooky Cydia. Gotta fill the slot. Scarth saw a slot and they had to fill it. Let me see. You don't like that? Okay, we're gonna try getting rid of the cringe. Does the cringe let my tags appear? These stupid tags. I cannot figure out how Twitch wants my tags to work. Every time. Salt City, a gate stream is acceptable substitute for alcohol. Hello, Rexakavi. Hello, Master Burb. Welcome. One day, my tags will appear. They're not up by like 10 minutes. I'll try and strip down some more tags. But yes, I hope everybody has a fantastic Friday and is having a fantastic day to start their wonderful weekends. My day was my day off, so I watched more anime video essays as well as watching more anime in general. Thank you for the resub, Rexakami. 13 months, you'll love to see it. Thank you. To the City of Soul. I'll get rid of reviews. Maybe you didn't like that. Okay. But yeah, so I was doing that. I got kebab for lunch. I ended up not getting tacos. I ended up deciding I wasn't in the mood for tacos. And then I decided that I didn't want to get my COVID shot, my COVID second booster today because my arm still hurt a lot from my flu shot yesterday. So from the new Call of Duty game. Gotcha. So I'll probably get that tomorrow if possible. But yeah, so I hope everybody is doing well. I am anime hyped up. Hype Cydia levels up in here. As what is on the agenda for tonight? Well, first of all, gender is a social construct. Secondly, I'm gonna go through anime reviews for anime that you all recommended me. And I watched one episode out of all of them, except for the ones I've already seen, in which case I will comment about the full extent of episodes I have watched of them. Which will of course lead into a dual part analysis, because Master Fail requested a very specific episode of Gate, an anime I despise, which I've also seen 12 episodes of, and I have rants about Gate and why at its best it is both boring and problematic, and at its worst it is downright disgusting. So here we go. Oh, Awesome Blossom! Thank you for the raid! It's an Awesome Blossom raid! Welcome! Hello, Awesome Blossom. I hope you're doing fantabulous. I hope your stream went well. You guys should definitely go check out Awesome Blossom. They're a very cute blossom. Very cute VTuber. Oh, I misspelled raid. I am trash. Awesome Blossom. Gosh, I'm so dumb. I'm sorry, Blossom. I'm misspelling your name so much. I am not used to doing this very often. There we go. How was your just chatting stream? And then, we must round. But yeah, I've seen so many Gundam shows now. Like, half of the recommendations people gave me were for Gundam shows. But for those of you who don't know, my name is Obsidia. I'm everybody's favorite Death Knight. And I appreciate you coming by. I do a variety of streams, art and commentary and RPGs and D&D. And what is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo made of the spines of my enemies and those I've hugged a little too tightly. Welcome. Oh, Kingdom Hearts lore explained to you. Awesome. I've never played Kingdom Hearts. Obviously, I know about it because I'm a person in the world. Hey, Saint Tiltover. Welcome, welcome. Also, hello, Lily. I hope you're all doing swell as hell, as my tags never come. Why don't you come for me, Daddy? Alright. There we go. Ah, man, just as I stripped away anime. Alright, I'm gonna add anime back. Another one. There we go. Okay. Favorite Death Knight? You mean there's other Death Knights? There actually are other Death Knights. There is exactly one other Death Knight VTuber that I've encountered. His name's Geddon. He is a male Death Knight. He takes the approach of the much more burly, armored, villainous kind of Death Knight, while I am, of course, a gremlin. You thought it was an Iron Halo? No, it is not an Iron Halo, although I will always stand for the Emperor. So, I received... God, how many did I receive? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 anime recommendations from everybody. So I've got notes. I literally have a pad of paper. You get this authentic paper crinkle ASMR as I look between the notes I took as I was playing. As I was watching. Okay, well, thank you for the lurk, Blossom. Thank you for the raid. I hope all of your community enjoys hanging out here for my little rant about anime. And thank you for the re-up AP crew. 17 months resub. You love to see it. And sorry, I refuse to not rant about Gate. I just hate it so much. Alright, so here's how it's gonna work. Described as Emperor was a dick, and this is how it's spiraled out of control. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm gonna start in somewhat chronological order of the recommendations that were given to me for anime reviews. And then I am going to... Oh, Rex Okami, thank you for the 100 bits. Have you ever seen a pilot shoot drug dealers? I did. And then I'm gonna go... Once I've done all of the ones where I did the 1 episode review of them, I'll then talk about the anime that I've seen before in, like, greater totality. And then I'll finish it up with the Gate rant, because the Gate rant will be the longest of my rants. Because I actually concluded new and exciting things to hate about Gate as I was showering today, thinking about it. I hope you're all ready. We're actually not switching to another part of the throne room today. I hope you realize that. So I'm just gonna say, ta-da! We're here! So, here we go. Here we go. So we're gonna start off with the first recommendations. Oh, Cygnus, thank you for the 100 bits. You'll love to see those 100 bits. You'll love to see that hype train. That hype Cydia, some would say. Ch-ch-ch-choo? Ch-ch-ch-choo? So I'm gonna go line by line with who asked me to do what. So first off, I'm going to do Ghost Stories by Labcoat Cosplay, who is here in chat. That I've caused you to think about Gate during an otherwise nice shower. Yeah, I'm sitting there feeling my boobs up during my shower, because that's one of the 2 times a day I have to do my boob massages during the shower. So as I was fondling my titties, I was thinking about how much I hate Gate. So what is on the agenda for tonight? First of all, gender is a social construct, and now we're gonna be talking about ghost stories. Oh, Saint Tiltover, you're allowed to like Gate, but I'm gonna explain to you why you're wrong. No, I'll put this as an open disclaimer going into this review. These are my personal thoughts about the various anime I watched, many of which I only watched a single episode of. They are my own. You are allowed to like whatever anime you do for whatever reasons you do. My opinion does not change that. I just hope, if my opinion disagrees with yours, that you at least take, I hope it gives you some extra considerations for why I may feel that way about a given anime. So, first off, Ghost Stories. I did not realize how much of a meme this anime was Until it was explained to me. I saw the recommendation, like I pinned in my Discord each of the recommendations so I could remember them. And so I didn't see the fact that it's supposed to be consumed dubbed. And so this is important because this anime is literally an abridged anime that people actually got paid to make. Because apparently in the deep lore of the anime itself, the anime is fucking terrible. Apparently it didn't do well in Japan. So when they brought it over to America and they wanted to do the dub, they gave the director free license to make whatever changes he wanted, as long as he kept the names of the characters and the rough, like, sequence of events. So this leads to these voice actors just, like, saying the craziest shit. So obviously, I did not know that going into this. So I watched the sub because I presumed, unless somebody told me otherwise, to watch the sub of things, because that's generally considered the traditional way of watching a given anime. So I watched the sub. I got about 15 minutes into the first episode sub, by the way. I have notes from both sides of it. And so I got 15 minutes into it when I realized, like, this show is incredibly generic and boring. It is very quintessentially like 90s anime, but also incredibly bland. And like with that weird 90s obsession with like children calling out panty shots. Like that's like a very specifically 90s thing. And so, oh shit, I forgot to watch it with dub, Master Fail. I'm so sorry. I forgot to watch it with dub. I don't think it would have improved, or I don't think it would have changed my thoughts at all. I do remember the voice actress for Rory Mercury-Gate is actually, like, she gives it a very hot voice, if I recall. But, so, like, I watched 15 minutes of this. I'm like, the show is fucking awful, but, you know, whatever. The OP is terrible. It's so generic and so, like, it's so cringily generic in a 90s anime way that is very hard to describe. So then I come to switching to the dub, and my notes change very abruptly. Like I've got here, for my notes of the subtitle, I have fear of no flush toilets. Lol. What a very distinctly, like, Japanese thing. I have ye old panty shot obsession as two different notes. Who are you calling a dog? I just channeled, I imagine the ghost speaking an incredibly Brooklyn accent. And at this point, I switched to the dub. And by switching to the dub, my, like, quotes that I wrote down just went infinitely further. So switching to the dub, they make a lot of hilarious changes to the characters. Like, this one girl is supposed to be like a spirit seer kind of person. So they make her into this, like, religious, like, Bible-thumping fanatic quoting Jesus and stuff, and I fucking lost it. Because if I recall, also, the voice actress is the same voice actress who does like, Tanya the Evil in dub, who also does Uzuki in dub, etc. So, and she's also the one who does Stalking in dub. So, like, I know her, and she's been in the business for fucking forever. But, like, hearing these, like, ridiculous, yeah, have you accepted Jesus as your personal savior? I fucking lost it. The giggity giggity line, like, it's a fucking a Family Guy reference, killed me, because I'm like, oh my god. And that I wrote down specifically, have you accepted Jesus as your savior? Wow, that statue looks really cute in my hat. Minoko as a religious Christian is great. When they're trying to leave and the boy is like, yeah, we gotta get out of here, and the babies, or the younger brother is like, but what about my cat? And he goes, where is it? I don't care about your cat. He's probably dead. I fucking lost it. I'm like, oh man, what a thing to say. I don't care about your cat. He's probably dead. And then talking about the ghost in the toilet, the fucking Minoko going, I can only hope she knew about Jesus. And this friend deal is off. And principals always look like lesbians. As he's looking at a picture of her mom. And then it goes into, is a somewhat cringy. I will say it's somewhat cringy because it involves like gay conversion therapy. But the fact of, the fact that that was even cited as commenting about this mom. I just love as Minoko's about to talk. She goes, your mom kind of looks like, and then the daughter goes, don't you dare say what you're about to say next. And then the fucking younger son goes, what's a lesbian? And I actually added this to the watch list as something I want to watch the rest of. I hear that it's hilarious as an abridged meme anime, and I will actually take this recommendation, Lab Coat Cosplay, and I will watch more of this series because it's fucking hilarious. Roxy with the gremlin noises. Okay, here we go. There you go, some silly gremlin noises from me to you, Roxy. Thank you for the hug. I want your hugs. I'm gonna give you a hug back. There you go, Roxy. Big old huggle wuggles. I gotta do some shout outs for people. Music to Love. Definitely go check out Music to Love. She is an amazing artist, VTuber. Go check out Rex Okami. Very good cyborg pilot. Plays lots of first-person shooters. I apparently hit the cooldown of my own redeem. Kind of awkward. Rex Okami 30. There we go. And then be sure to check out Roxy, everybody's favorite, cutest, most snuggleable, and bodacious little cyber yokai you could ever hope to meet. Check them all out. They're all cutie pies. They're all sweet. So yeah, the end song was obviously terrible, but like that's stuff that could not be helped. Texidia strikes again, indeed. So, those are my thoughts on the very first episode of Ghost Stories. I take the recommendation. I appreciated it. I will watch more. And I recommend other people to watch more because it's fucking ridiculous. If you like abridged anime series on YouTube, you will love this official abridged anime dub. We'll curl up on your throne and sleep, lurk. Ah, Roxy, you're always welcome to curl up on my throne and in my lap for all your snoozy snuggles. That's art I need to get. I have the Michael curled up in my lap artwork that he commissioned, which is absolutely adorable. But I also need to get Roxy curled up in my lap artwork. Errolvin, welcome! It's my favorite little mischievous thieving burb. Happy to have you. We're doing anime reviews right now. So the second anime up was suggested by Dark Elf, which is Sukanani Shimatsu Ka, otherwise known as World's End. The short form of it is World's End. It's World's End, Are You Busy? Will You Save Us? I think is the full name of the anime, which is a more recent anime. I think it came out within the last year or so. I can say, watching this anime, I gotta drink water. I'm ranting so continuously, my throat is getting scratchy. There's a moment where, first of all, I was happy it wasn't an isekai. It seemed like it was very much premised to become an isekai, but then they were like, no, this guy's from the world, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I have very strong thoughts about some isekais these days. Puts a Gengar next to Roxy. Oh, thank you. So it's basically like this steampunk, like airship kind of world with floating islands and stuff, which is really cool. And it had lots of animal people, but unlike most fantasy anime, the racism was not towards the animal people. The animal people were actually the norm. The racism was towards the human. So fuck Whitey. Who was apparently the last human around because there was apparently a big war and like all the humans died off except for this one guy who's just trying to fucking thug out his life, not not having to deal with shit that went wrong previously. So he encounters this, I do need to watch How Not to Summon a Demon Lord for cringy isekai, but I hear that it's good ecchi anime, even if it's cringy isekai. So he meets this fairy girl who's like on the run, like, and they decide to go have an adventure out in the day. And this moment actually specifically reminded me of, what's it called? Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, because the OP of Jobless Reincarnation is beautiful. The music is absolutely gorgeous. It's not even like a true OP, because it's not like really a sequence. It's just like showing terrain, showing landscapes, and it plays this like beautiful music. So with that in mind, as these people are doing a montage of their adventures, pancaked everyone. Hello, Veldo. Welcome to chat. Welcome. Yeah, so while they're doing their montage of like just going on like silly adventures in this town over the span of about 5 minutes, it played one of the most beautiful covers of Scarborough Fair that I've ever heard in my life. Like, it was so good that I added it to actually like, I save a lot of anime OPs and end songs to like just listen to because I really like them. I'm a huge fan of a well done anime OP or end song. And this version of Scarborough Fair floored me with how good it was. And at that moment, I was immediately committed to this show. I was like, they had such a beautiful, just artistic flair, and that song was so well done and so well composed and scored in the overall episode that I'm like, this show clearly has something going on. So, I actually wrote a note specifically that says reverse fantasy racism. So in the end, the guy gets a job to go protect a warehouse of military weapons for the military. But before that, the fairy girl has to leave because she's like, yeah, my happiness is over. I gotta go like accept real life now. So he gets this job to guard a warehouse, and he goes there and he meets this busty monster maid girl. And it's like a mansion rather than a true warehouse. And apparently, he knows her from the past. She's a troll. Apparently, they just casually slide in that she's a cannibal in the sense that she eats sentient life. And she really wants to eat the main character because he's the last human ever. And she wonders how he tastes. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting approach. And then they meet just the cutest little multicolored haired girls, and it becomes apparent that these girls are all like basically fairy living weapons. And the original fairy girl that he was hanging out with, this is basically is in charge of them in some way. So she is also, I guess, a fairy weapon. And so yeah. If you're in my Discord, it's in the Anime Rex channel. Maybe I will create a anime recommendations channel where it's just me saying all the anime I like, which is mostly rom-coms. I'm a very simple Cydia. I like rom-coms. And so they meet just the cutest little girls who are up to hijinks and mischief. And it becomes apparent that this is a program that is dually run by the military and a merchants organization. And so they need a representative of the military and they need a representative of the merchants. The merchant is the maid girl, and he's the military rep. And they start alluding to this like backstory of a war he fought in that apparently was very traumatic, but he is also very powerful. And one of the things that I specifically noted about it is that it is very cute anime. Like, I was really happy it wasn't an isekai. The art in it is very cute. All the girls are drawn to be very cute. The world is very pretty. But also, it did something that is rarely done in a lot of anime, which is it had incredibly good pacing for people talking. normally in anime, it's like character A talks, pause, character B talks. This anime was like bam, bam, bam. People talk, people talk, people talk, people talk. And so it created a much more realistic flow of conversation. And the funny moments are funnier because the timing is so quick. It's like, person makes a joke, guy immediately responds with a very quick comeback turn of phrase. And that's really good because it's also how actual people talk. And so I really appreciated the pacing and flow of conversation. So the end song was whatever. It wasn't very good. It wasn't nearly as good as Scarborough Fair was at the start. But yeah, so I would recommend this anime based off the one episode I watched. I've added it to my watch list as a show to watch more of in the future. Yeah, Lab Coat, I would say it's more like the way Western animation does character speaking. It's a lot more of people talking to each other very quickly, rather than, really framing the soaking in of a comment or whatever before a response. So I recommend it. I'm gonna watch more of it. Apparently it's really sad. based on the Scarborough Fair comment section I saw, as well as some of the, as well as like the intro sequence itself, where it's one of those things where it like starts you at the end of the series and then like kind of record scratches you back to the beginning. So you already know everything's gonna end horribly. But yeah, I'm actually interested to see where it goes. So that was brought to you by Dark Elf, World's End. Very much appreciate it. Now we enter the Gundam phase of everything, where I watch like fucking 4 Gundams back to back. So I'm gonna start off by saying, my first Gundam series has been Witch of Mercury, the latest Gundam one that is the gay harem anime of Gundam, apparently. So that's my first exposure. Now we come to So we come to me watching 3 different recommended Gundam shows that are from wildly different time periods. And you have to understand, I know basically nothing about Gundam. In addition, I don't particularly like mecha anime as a whole. I've watched several mecha anime over the years. I think the only one that like I can immediately cite off the top of my head, besides Escaflowne, but I was like a child when I saw Escaflowne on like Fox Kids as a child, would be Gargantia and the Verdant Planet, which I thought was an incredibly good show when I watched it. I thought it was very good. Hello, Raven Dramatic. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming back after you followed last stream. We're doing anime reviews right now, and I'm talking about several Gundam shows. So, like, I'm not big into mecha anime, but I was given a veritable smorgasbord of Gundam anime. So, first off, we have Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, brought to you by Rex Okami. So, I will say, each of these Gundam did a good job in the first episode of immediately, like, throwing you into the plot. They immediately, like, set up who the bad guys were, who the good guys were, and, like, got you in the action of the plot right from the outset. Which is something admirable, because sometimes it can be rather painful for things to really drag out the start of something. Yo, Marceline cosplay? What? I want to see that. I love Marceline. Hey, Raffle Stumper. No, I'm talking about real plot, not titties. Titties come later when we're talking about plot. So Gundam IBO, Iron-Blooded Orphans, starts off, which is apparently like a commonality that I saw in at least 2 of these Gundams, is a secessionist movement where they try to kill the secessionist leader, like, right at the outset of the anime. That is the culmination for, like, what is the plot. So, this is Mars, or at least a portion of Mars, is trying to secede from Earth, and like the ruler's daughter is like one of the big like secessionist people. So I don't know, other organizations come to assassinate her by launching a very like massive attack against her and the military entourage that's supposed to protect her. The funny thing is, yeah, everybody, Earth is the bad guy in like all of these. But the funny thing about this anime specifically that I wrote down was I actually first became aware of IBO by yaoi porn. I was reading some doujin on N Hentai where like the guy who wears a mask apparently later on in the show was just like married to this other guy who's like this total like soft femboy, and he just like rails him out like all the time. And so that was that is my very first impression of IBO. And I actually wrote down a note because the unit of military people that gets assigned to protect the princess, or not the princess, but the daughter independence leader, are all like outcast people, presumably the iron-blooded orphans. And I do appreciate the fact that like she is very quintessentially what I would call the what would I call it? The limousine liberal of characters, because she's like super high-end like planetary nobility, and her obsession is like, I want to become like, I want to understand how the commoners feel. I want to fight for commoners' rights. Those silly little things. And so like she basically is like cosplaying a commoner when she's talking to the main military cast assigned to protect her, and like they get it, which is, I appreciated that. They're kind of like, yeah, I didn't shake your hand because my hands are dirty, and like even if I did, it doesn't change the fact that you're above me. Like even if you're pretending you want to be equal with me, you're not. And so I appreciated that as an actual character perspective, because it's that kind of condescending patronism, I would say, is probably I think a very good character trait to have in somebody who's not necessarily a villain, but it's definitely sets up a platform for actual character growth. And then I recognize this character from the porn. That's actually most of my exposure for shows I don't watch is the porn. And then after I watch them, also the porn. So, but yeah, so there was that, and then there was a comment that they're toys to release stress, talking about the soldiers, which obviously, the camera pans over, like, the two younger guys in the unit, who got, like, abused earlier on. They get, like, beaten for, like, talking back to a guy. And all I could think is, toys to release stress, panning to the younger teens, gay, I literally wrote down gay with multiple Ys. I did appreciate the name of Ahab Reactor for like the, I don't know, whatever is the Magic Gundam energy source. The Ahab Reactor I thought was pretty cool of a name. Although it's kind of an awkward thing to put on a spaceship considering what happened to Ahab. But oh well. One of the things I did note that I liked about it was Avon Denolo, the Master of Wiggles. I have not seen Yashahime Princess Half Demon. I never watched Inuyasha, so I feel like I'd be missing something watching Yashahime. Like when they're fighting their big battle against the Gundams and the bad guy Gundam army, they actually do like logistics stuff, like reloading the weapons of the various platforms, which I thought was just kind of a neat like military note. You don't normally see people actually reload things. It's usually unlimited ammo, JK lol. And then the end song, which I'm presuming was the OP for future episodes, Raise Your Flag, it was a pretty good song. I would say it's pretty good. I felt like it kind of fit the tone of the show pretty well. So, will I watch more of IBO? Probably not. Maybe in the future. it seemed okay. Out of the 3 Gundam shows I watched, it's probably one of the better ones. But I don't know, it's not really my kind of thing. But I do want to see guy wearing mask and femboy who gets railed out. I want to see them actually in the show to understand context. So that was brought to you by Rexokami. Thank you for the recommendation. And hello, AP crew. Next up is Gundam number 2. This one was brought to you by... Let me see, scrolling down. Gustav Kariga recommended Gundam Build Drivers Re-Rise Episode 12 specifically. Mind you, I have not watched anything, and apparently Gundam Build Drivers Re-Rise is the 2nd season of Gundam Build Drivers. So I'm watching the 12th episode of the 2nd season of a show. And so, because of that, I'm like walking into this having no idea what the fuck is going on. Okay, Rex, enjoy your lurk. The OP, generic. It was a pretty generic OP. Also, I may have appreciated it more if I had any idea who these fucking people were. Yeah, so this one, as opposed to IBO, this one is done very cartoonishly in its art style. And there's animal people, like, walking around a lot. And so there's animal people, but, like, more on the anthropomorphic, like, furry end of animal people rather than, like, hot cat girls. Although I did write down there was a cute wolf boy, but apparently it was actually a girl, which was disappointing. But, so, and then the designs for some of these fucking Gundams are ridiculous. Like, the girl who's, like, the wolf person has, like, this, like, chibi, like, Phoenix Knight thing, which looks like it would be a JoJo stan, like, as her mecha, and it's ridiculous. And so, they're fighting, like, some AI-controlled Gundam robot things, and the moon is above this planet of animal people, has, like, an orbital laser in it or something, and apparently they're trying to stop the orbital laser from shooting at the planet, and so they have to fight off all these robot things as they go against it. The female member of their team gets her Gundam, like, fucked up, and so she, like, basically sends it into the laser cannon to self-destruct, except, like, she jumps out of it wearing, like, a spacesuit with, like, with, like, a laser AK, basically. And she somehow manages to, like, detonate her Gundam with this, like, infantry weapon that she had on her and cause it to explode and damage the weapon a bit. And I just thought that was ridiculous. But, so then, while they're still doing all this, eventually they lose, and the laser cannon fires down at the animal people and just fucking disintegrates, like, the big city of animal people that apparently, like, was probably of some significance to the cast at this point. And then you see it in, like, if you've seen Star Wars Rogue One, there's a very much, like, Rogue One effect as, like, the blast wave is emanating out from this cannon, which I thought was really cool. And so I thought that was cool. And then you just see, like, the animal people being, like, fucking shooketh at, like, this giant orbital impact that just happened. And then, of course, the city of them is just fucking gone. And so then everybody else comes on down. Thank you for the follow, Werewolf Alf. Welcome, welcome. I'm just doing some anime reviews. The main characters come on down to the planet, and they basically deal with, like, the refugee centers now of these animal people who are like, what happened to the city? And the main character's like, oh yeah, the city's gone. Like, that's pretty fucked. And, like, the animal people are like, no, it can't just be gone. It was there a minute ago. Like, we had friends there. We had family there. And then, like, one of the main characters goes, wait, what? We failed the mission. Why aren't we getting, you know, ported back to the lobby, basically? And I, like, at this moment, I had my record scratch stop moment. I'm like, is this fucking Ender's Game? They've been playing this, like, video game of Gundams that's actually been taking them to to alien worlds that they've been participating in as if it were a game place and these are all real people. Hey Brutus, welcome, welcome. I am in fact Big Titty Goth GF. Enjoy, enjoy. And I'm glad to have you, Werewolf Alpha. Welcome to the stream. So I literally put like multiple question marks. I'm like, is this Ender's Game? So they get ported back to a lobby as like connection issues happen. And then you see like all of them get these error messages after this occurred. And then they get ported like back to their like gaming console things. And they're like, well, that was fucking weird. I wonder what just went down. And I'm like, oh man, they definitely just let like an entire civilization get nuked while they were playing Dota. That's awkward. So yeah, so that was my synopsis of Gundam Build Drivers Re-Rise episode 12. I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting that it went with like because I had no context to this. So I thought they were just like normally fighting on these alien worlds. I did not realize it was a video game until that moment. And then I was like, oh, Ender's Game. That's kind of a neat twist. Would I watch more of it? No, I would not. Furry waifu's Ender's Game, thanks Japan. So yeah, I would not watch more of it. It wasn't really my thing. It gave me like actually kind of a similar vibe in some ways to Netflix's Voltron, which I did really like Netflix's Voltron, to be honest. But I just did not necessarily care for this. So, now we come to Gundam number 3. And by the way, we will get to Assassination Classroom, Raven. I was requested to watch that, but that was literally the last one I watched, so I'm going to save that for a couple more of these. Alright, Gundam Origin, which I believe was also called, like, Red Wing Reborn or something. This show was interesting. It was very much what I would describe as, like, it was a good introduction episode. Like, the first episode did a really good job of letting you know who are the players in the anime, what are the stakes, and like, what's going on. And it's done in this, like, sci-fi political drama, which, once again, involves a secession movement from Earth, where basically, like, the guy who was trying to argue for the secession gets assassinated. I'm noticing this is definitely a trend amongst Gundam. Gets assassinated, and his family immediately gets whisked away by these two competing political families on this world, each trying to have power and control. So you immediately know these are the two groups. One of them are obviously the bad guys because they're mean and they're also ugly. That's the easiest anime clue. Well, the other people aren't exactly great either, but apparently they're less assholes. So they get whisked away, and it's a lot of stuff happening around the wife and her kids. Yeah, the Zabi were the other family, and the Ral were the, like, good-er family. And so both are trying to get control over the Liberation Leader's family because they're really important political pieces. Because they're so widely beloved by the masses. The masses also use this assassination to start basically going full feral rioting mode and causing a civil war, which then gets exploited by the families to try and gain power. So I wrote down it was funny there was horse cavalry in it. When you've got like fucking mecha and you've got people riding around on a ye old horse with like a revolver. I also described the music in it was so fucking weird. Like, whoever scored that anime, like, I had no idea what was going on. Like, there's this scene when everybody is like talking to each other where it's like this weird, like, offbeat, like, 1970s music, and I'm like, what the fuck is the tone of this song they're trying to convey here? And so it got very political real fast, and you get introduced to a shit ton of characters in rapid succession. But I felt like it did a pretty good job of introducing you to a lot of people, but making them both iconic, but also easily identifiable from each other with a very clear, like, oh, this guy is a bad guy. He is a bully. It's stuff like that. So I didn't feel like lost necessarily with all the characters. The worst thing I felt was actually when they circled back to the main family, the Cassaval, who are like a bunch of blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people. So obviously they were in charge of this sci-fi setting in the cringiest way possible. But so like they're the ones being bargained for, and the Zabi have been alluded to have assassinated their dad, which is what the Rawl are claiming, and they just totally buy into that. So then the Zabi show up with this like Dami Mommy with a mullet and like hair horns, shows up and has like a one-on-one talk with like an 8-year-old boy Cassaval, and he's basically like, fuck you, lady, I don't care if you're in charge. So of course, this obviously adult woman easily overpowers this child, and then like comments like, oh man, I'm surprised you didn't call out for help. And then she fucking handcuffs him, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I supposed to care about this like 8-year-old kid who is trying to be like such a badass to this adult woman who we've seen be a badass? And I'm like, I literally laughed out loud at the moment that was trying to be serious, because like, this is fucking ridiculous. After like how seriously the anime took itself up until this point, like this was absolutely ridiculous. And like it ends with him being like really defiant and like sassy to this lady. And I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't even care about this character. Why is this matter? And obviously it's because they're going to become a big pilot and, you know, avenge their father or whatever. But so that was my thoughts on Gundam Origin. The OP was okay. The song was okay. The video direction was okay. The end song was very meh. I didn't give a shit about it. But hello, Luna. Welcome, welcome. Be sure to check out our favorite thirsty cyber sword bisexual over here. Luna is very cool, very awesome. She got her new ref sheet and it is pure fire. Definitely go check her out. You want some gremlin noises? I got you gremlin noises right here. So, those are my thoughts on the 3 Gundam anime I was introduced to. I would not watch Gundam Origin again. I did not care for it. But, so, after we do the 3 Gundam anime, of course, the next one up was another mecha anime, but like, so ridiculous. I was like, so confused watching this anime, but I'm like, I feel like I have no idea what's going on, but also I'm kind of vibing with it. So the next anime was The Big O, episode 12 out of a 13 episode season. Dub, specifically dub. I'm always happy to give those Murloc fixes. The first thing I'll say is the OP straight slapped. It was good. It was like real hyphy. English lyric dub for anime OPs is definitely it's a lost art. It doesn't happen anymore. And it's kind of funny that it even existed because I forgot it did. Yes, it's funny you say that, Scarth. It's funny you say that. Literally, one of my comments was, this show looks like the old Batman cartoons from the 90s. So I enjoyed the fact that it had a noir voiceover. I love noir voiceovers. And the voice actor for the main character is Spike from Cowboy Bebop. And he looks like Batman. He literally has, like, servants like Batman. He's like a private eye detective, apparently, that also just kind of summons a giant mecha and to beat the shit out of other mechas for unknown reasons. So, yeah, I was like, what is even going on in the show? The tone is bizarre. Like, at one point, the main character is supposed to be delivering, like, a severance package to, like, this other guy, and he goes to attend, like, a Slaneshi orgy of rich people who are, like, cackling maniacally as they're, like, drinking wine and drooling and fondling each other and stuff, and I'm like, huh, okay. And then the host birds the check, and he's like, look at how corrupt this city is. Lol, lol, lol. And then he makes all their masks, like, burn, and so kills, like, everyone there. And then another mecha shows up, and they start fighting, and then I'm like, okay, I have no idea what's going on. And yeah, there was, like, the biggest mecha entrance that was so extra for, like, no reason at all. And I literally wrote down, what the fuck is going on, question mark, question mark. Red and black mecha deuces? And I go, this anime is so fucking weird. Literally one of my notes. I bet they did do it on black paper instead of white, because it's got that same dark vibe for everything. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the Big O. I might watch the rest of it just because of how fucking ridiculous it is. But yeah, I was glad it was recommended to me because I was just immediately introduced to, okay, I guess this is happening now. So thank you, Cross. And then Luna, of course, Luna. Oh, Luna, I'm so happy Lily decided to do this redeem for you, because now I get to tell you what we've all been thinking, and that's that you, Luna, yes, you are such a good girl. You're such a good girl, and there's nothing that'll change that. There you go, Luna. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, who needs consistent tone when you have giant robots? Whew! Alright. Sorry, I've just been talking for an hour straight enthusiastically, so I keep having to hydrate. Alright, so the last of the anime I had not seen before was Assassination Classroom. This one, although it wasn't recommended to me as a dub, the dub was the default that played on Crunchyroll first, and I didn't feel like changing it, so I watched the dub of it, which was fine. I felt like the dub was fine. I appreciated not knowing anything about this anime. I appreciated how fucking over the top the OP is. It is so silly and ridiculous. The tone is hilarious, and I was like, okay, this is clearly going to be a very, very goofy anime, which I did not expect from a concept described as Assassination Classroom. Luna, did you like being a good girl? Do you like being my good girl? So the actual show itself, I said it has a hell of a start to the show, because it immediately is an entire room of people unloading guns into this giant yellow octopus person, and who is then, like, apparently he blew up the moon, as we learn the lore of the world, where this octopus one day decided to blow up, I had to crack my back, decided to blow up 70% of the moon, and has said that he's gonna blow up Earth too. And so he's giving them 1 year to basically kill him, otherwise he's gonna blow up the Earth. And he chose one class of middle schoolers specifically to, like, teach and train how to kill him. And they are given, like, these deadly BBs that don't hurt humans but do fuck him up. And he proceeds to be, like, the greatest teacher ever to these kids. Yes, I actually wrote down, where we go. Here we go. Hell of a start to the show. Blew up the moon. Parenthesis. Piccolo would be proud. Parenthesis. Yeah, and then, you know, the show does a hell of a job at its first episode pitching its premise, as well as, like, you know, the characters involved. I also like that as a character trait, this octopus mass murderer is really obsessed with making sure that eyebrows are on fleek. He loves grooming eyebrows and cleaning things in a really weird way. So I appreciated the duality of the premise, where it's like, this guy's a really good teacher, but he's also having all of these kids try and murder him. And they literally all talk about how good of a teacher he is, and like very casually discussing how to murder him. Like literally you only see him mad at one point when the main character, who's like this super cute femboy apparently, because I thought it was a girl at first, but then they're like, no, it's a boy, and I'm like, oh, alright, well cute femboy makes this better. Suicide bombers him, and he gets really mad that they decided to suicide bomb him. Not because it was a bad assassination attempt, but rather because they put their fellow classmate at risk. And it's also got a bunch of quirky voiceovers and stuff, and yeah, I would say I'd probably watch more of the show. I added it to my watch list. I'm like, this is so goofy and so quirky and so over the top. I would watch this show again. So, woo! That show was brought to you by our Huggy Bun from the Discord. So yeah, so those are all the shows I have not seen previously. But you know, thank you everybody for recommending those. Now we move on to shows I have seen already, and I can throw my notes away. Oh geez, and I just missed what I was throwing them on top of, like I do. Alright, more water. Alright, so for shows I've actually seen, Overlord, I'm going to talk about that one a bit later because I've seen all 4 seasons of it, so I have thoughts about the show as a whole. Wait, there's a live action version of Assassination Classroom? Jesus Christ. So I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save Made in Abyss because I've seen all of Made in Abyss and I love Made in Abyss with every like fabric of my being. So, okay, Ryan suggested JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, specifically Stardust Crusaders. So, I watched season 1, and I think it counts as season 2. I'm not sure if Joseph counts as season 2. But I watched the first 2 arcs of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it is in fact quite bizarre. And so Stardust Crusaders is the 3rd arc involving Jotaro, who is the grandson of Joseph, who's the greatest character in the show. Yes, the actor who does Ainz in the dub is actually very good, and I have comments about him as a voice actor because there's actually a show I feel he does better in, which is one of Yuko and I's favorite shows. But Stardust Crusaders follows Jotaro trying to defeat Dio once and for all, everybody's favorite vampire, and introduces the concept of stands, which are kind of like psychic projections, and like that becomes the norm of the whole Bizarre Adventure franchise from that point on. And it's a cool concept. However, I did not really like Stardust Crusaders. I watched, I think, probably the first 6 episodes of Stardust Crusaders. Yuko watched the entire season. And part of the reason why I didn't like it was I didn't like Jotaro. Jotaro is supposed to be such a badass, but to me, he was just super chunibyo. And I loved Joseph so much in the previous arc that I felt like he was getting done so dirty in this arc because he's just kind of a meme in it. And so I just didn't really like it. And I've seen what happens over the course of the rest of the arc, and like it's fine. They pick up a plucky cast of characters all across the world, but it just wasn't my thing. And I kind of stopped watching JoJo after that point. Yuko is currently watching part 4, which is Josuke, and does not care for it. And I think also it's not very much like what I enjoy about the show. So, like, I was fine getting rid of Hamon, like, because I understand. I've seen a bunch of essays talking about the evolution of JoJo's over the years and why those choices were made, but I didn't really care for Stardust Crusaders. I'm sorry, Ryan, but I have seen part of it. So that's my thought about Stardust Crusaders. Now, Alistair recommended Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt, which if you're a part of my Twitter, or if you follow me on Twitter, or if you follow me on Discord, you have heard my thoughts about Panty and Stocking and Garter Belt. I watched that after VTuber Clydesdale had recommended it, and oh my god, that show was so fucking funny. The dub goes so hard. So hard. Hey, Yuko! Bad take on Stardust Crusaders. I'm sorry, Yuko. I'm sorry. I just wasn't into it. By the way, definitely go check out Graph Yukiko, everybody's favorite small wolf and sweetest little bean. They're very cute, they're very gremlin, they're very knowledgeable. Their streams are incredibly educational, as they are very knowledgeable about all kinds of topics, as well as military history and functions. So definitely be sure to check them out. I also love them with every fiber of my being. So, Yuko didn't watch most of the anime with me for the shows that was my first time watching them. So they thankfully did not watch Gundam IBO. They wouldn't have been into it. Panty and Stocking is fucking hilarious. It is so goddamn funny. I described it when I first watched it as it's Powerpuff Girls meets South Park. You can say I watched 0 of the anime. That is accurate, Yuko. That is accurate. Wolf Detected, thank you for giving a gift sub to Graph Yukiko, the sweetest little wolfo. And so, Panty and Stocking is hilarious. Apparently it is a direct, like, love letter to Western animation, which is why it is, like, the least anime-looking anime. It is absolutely disgusting at times, but it is also absolutely hilarious most of the times. And I will say, the dub voice actors who, Rias from High School DxD is the voice of Panty, the biggest slut ever. And, the girl who does the voice of, as I said, Tanya, does the voice of Stocking, and they go 1,000,000% into the role. And it is so funny hearing their banter and how much they swear at each other. The fact that, like, the literal villains, like, are paper mache that explode at the end of each episode, I loved. I loved all the references to Western movies and animation. Oh man, Yuko, I'm sorry. But yeah, like, it was... Panty and Stocking is so funny. If you could put up with, like, really gross stuff, like, literally, the first episode's monster for, like, the first half of it is a shit monster that makes people puke and stuff, you will love the show. It is so fucking funny. So, hello Hector, long time no see. Buenas noches. I hope you're doing great tonight over in España. But yeah, definitely recommend Panty and Stocking. Apparently, I am actually excited for the fact that Studio Trigger is doing season 2 of it, because I feel like Trigger is going to add so much more gremlin energy to the show. Yeah. So definitely go check out Panty and Stocking. I'm going to have some water, and then I'm going to talk about Space Dandy, a show that was actually recommended to me and watched, well, introduced to me and watched entirely with me by Graph Yukiko. So Space Dandy is hilarious. We watched the dub. The dub is incredibly good. The show follows the adventures of Dandy, who's a dandy guy in space, as they tell you at the start of every episode. And so he has a ridiculous cast of characters of gremlins who goes on adventures to make money so that he could go to his favorite restaurant, Boobies, which is full of just busty girls. And he is like a ridiculously overconfident, cowardly, just gremlin of a man who tries to be like hit on everything he meets. But the show does this wonderful episodic format where it does insane standalone episodes where, like, literally one episode, a zombie outbreak spreads to the entire galaxy. And it's trying to get shut down by insurance companies who are losing money by having to pay out all the death benefits for everybody who's coming back as a zombie. And so... And like, literally the entire galaxy dies at the end of one of the episodes. And then it just picks up another episode later. And, like, it ends with, like, him, getting offered to, like, bang a planet, but he refuses. And then the narrator starts actively working against him. And, like, reality collapses in upon itself. And it's so ridiculous. But the dub is fantastic. The show is laugh out loud hilarious. The characters are all wonderful. They're all fantastic characters. There's literally a multiverse episode where it's the Space Dandy crew meeting each other from like 1,000 different multiverses, and it's all of them just experiencing just how like insane different versions of them are in different art styles and different settings and like different genres. So definitely go see Space Dandy. It is so goddamn funny. All right. Next up, Chainsaw Man. This is a show I actually watched of my own accord. Yuko and I have added it to our weekly watch list. But Chainsaw Man, I had seen like Giguk talking about Chainsaw Man, the like manga beforehand, and I was like, well, this sounds fucking insane. And then when I saw the OP and like people pointing out all the references to famous movies and stuff that are literally lifted like scene for scene into the OP, I was like, oh yeah, I'm about this life. And the first episode was really cool and also kind of weird. Apparently it's a world with devils in it that people hunt because they're bad, they're devils, and you can sell their parts on the black market for a lot of money. The main character has kind of a shitty life, and he's got the cutest little devil, which is like this little puppy thing with a chainsaw sticking out of his face named Pochita, who's like his BFF, and they go around murdering things. And then, obviously, spoiler, I'm going to be talking about it, but so he dies. He gets murdered by the zombie devil who made all the Yakuza into zombies, who he was working for. And then he gets torn apart, and he makes a deal with this little devil who's like, I'm going to let you get a second chance at life to be less shitty than the first one. And now he has the powers to transform into like Dante-esque devil trigger mode, where he gets chainsaws that come out of his hand and a chainsaw that comes out of his face. And he proceeds to massacre the fuck out of that devil. And he meets everybody's favorite pet play sadist girl, who gives him a hug and offers him a job as a devil hunter. And then episode 2 introduces the wonderful characters of his new boss, who's this tall, like, stoic dude who wants to run him out of the organization, because all he wants to do is basically touch pet play girls' boobs, because his like one of his life goals is to touch a boobie, like a true virgin. And so the guy like beats the shit out of him at one point, and like Yuko and I both got stunned by the fact that he returns this by just kicking the dude in the balls as hard as he can, over and over again. And then the guy gets up to like fight him again, and he kicks him in the balls again. Yes, Chainsaw Puppy is the cutest thing ever, and I'm so sad because of the way that obviously Chainsaw Puppy got meshed with the main character. I don't get to see more of Chainsaw Puppy. It's heartbreaking. And then it introduces Powa, who's this, who's basically like, what was it, 02? The Oni girl from Darling in the Franxx. She's an Oni girl. She is also somebody who's been mixed with the devil, except she's like the super over-the-top confidence machine who can rip her blood out of her body to make a massive fucking, baka bonk hammer. And she just like obliterates everything and is a fucking gremlin, and I love it. So yeah, Chainsaw Man, it's also a really cool, like, 3D art style. I'm not sure if the entire thing is like 3D or if it's just like cel shaded and stuff, but regardless, it's a really cool art style and the action in it actually is incredibly well rendered. Definitely recommend for people to watch. Okay, next up, Cowboy Bebop. I saw Cowboy Bebop as a child on VHS, mind you. This gives you a sense of how old Obsidia is. Yeah, I saw Cowboy Bebop as a child. I liked Cowboy Bebop as a kid. It's one of those things, it's supposed to be an incredibly ordinary show in a science fiction setting. I've watched a lot of like philosophy and discussions about it, and it's specifically designed to be like as far in the future as we are. Everybody's problems are basically the same things they are nowadays, but you know, there's spaceships involved and stuff. And it's about just like a found family group of, you know, kind of wacky characters done in this very, you know, like noir-esque motif. And it's good. It's very well written and everything. It just wasn't really, my thing as a kid. And I have a hard time getting back into it as an adult, partially because of how old it is. But, you know, it's a classic. It's always been a classic. So I can not say ill about it. Also, it was the source of many of my favorite AMVs as a teenager, such as I'm Addicted to Stress and Yesterday by the Beatles. So I cannot poo-poo it at all. Next up, we have in the other side of Cowboy Bebop, we have Outlaw Star. The tragedy of Outlaw Star is that its biggest weakness was it was released the same year as Cowboy Bebop. And Outlaw Star has one of, I might even say the greatest anime OP song / directed video of any anime I've ever seen. It is such a straight slapper of a song. You have to listen to it. You have to watch the intro. It's so good. And while Cowboy Bebop is very much like understating its sci-fi elements, Outlaw Star goes 1,000,000% in the opposite direction. All Through the Night is such a fucking good song. And the dub of Outlaw Star is actually very good. Asia Clan of the Kataro is an amazing cat girl. All the characters in it are very memorable and very ridiculous. And it's basically this sci-fi setting where the main character is afraid of space travel but wants to go into space. And he's got a pistol that shoots magic bullets, like literally bullets made of magic. Because magic exists in this world. And there's like a Chinese cartel of pirates that also wields like Chinese magic and are trying to kill him because he has a biomechanical android who can like interface with like basically like a navigator from 40K, and then he gets an intelligent ship, and the whole purpose is to discover the galactic ley line, which is like this magical source at the center of the universe kind of thing. And he recruits this ridiculous cast of people. He also is one of the few anime characters that fucking bangs out a girl in the first episode, which, you know, good on him, not a virgin. And Gene Starwind is a great character. And he eventually has to get more bullets by going to a hot spring planet where there's a group of fucking perverted old wizards there who make the magic bullets. And he literally has to go film like the girls of the planet wizardry, like being naked and stuff to go send back to them so they could basically jerk off to it. And that's the premise of an episode. So definitely 1,000,000% go see Outlaw Star. Like, as much as I was very lukewarm about Cowboy Bebop, even though I know it is a visual masterpiece and stuff of the craft, Outlaw Star is so much fun. You will love Outlaw Star. Go watch Outlaw Star. One takeaway from this stream, go watch Outlaw Star. It is so underrated. You need to see it. And the dub is actually very fun. So, whew. So that was that. Oh, I actually do need my notes again. I have to pick them up because I have to see the other anime. So that was Outlaw Star. That was Cowboy Bebop. Space Danny Panty. Chainsaw. Okay, now we get to move on to my longer rants. So here we go. So the last 3 anime for this stream. I know I've watched Outlaw Star, but I don't remember any of this. That's more of a reason to go back and watch it, Tiltover. So we come to Overlord, Made in the Abyss, and Gate. We're gonna start off with Made in the Abyss because it is the only one of those 3 that I like anymore. Made in Abyss is incredible. It was a show that I watched because of I'd seen Super Eye Patch Wolf talk about it and just how beautiful it was and like the themes and stuff of it. Venno recommended it for the stream, but the show's first season is so good. It's basically like a Studio Ghibli anime, except the children get horribly maimed and murdered. Is probably the best way to describe it. So the main characters are all the characters are drawn in this really cutesy art style, and then you also see them get like horribly fucked up. And people get torn apart and blood spouting out of every orifice. And the show it pulls 0 punches in the level of harm it inflicts on these little children and stuff. But it gives you this, all of the environments are beautiful, the monsters are all incredibly like alien in their designs. You really love the 2 main characters, and then eventually the 3rd character they recruit, Nanachi, who everyone loves Nanachi, and the voice actress for Nanachi has the most incredible noises she makes. And you feel like you're on a big adventure, because Riko is this human girl whose mom was like one of the world's greatest like adventurers down into the abyss. And the problem with the abyss is the deeper down you go, the harder it is to leave, because you actually suffer literal physical and mental damage by trying to leave. So eventually at a certain point you literally can't leave, because your body will basically turn into a puddle of goo if you try to leave, because you've been so inundated with magical abyss radiation. And so the main character is trying to go down there, A, because she wants to see her mom, who's supposedly at the bottom, who sent her a note saying, hey, I'm down here if you ever come see me. And B, because she wants to be an adventurer. And like this is like her passion. And she meets this super powerful, cute little robot boy who literally every female character wants to see his dick for some reason, and is obsessed with talking about his dick. And mind you, like every character, this looks to be about 12. And he is just very adorable and very goofy. And while Riko is very squishy, he's very powerful, but he's totally naive, and she's very smart. So they're like this yin-yang setup where they compensate for each other. Also, as like a weird note, I'm gonna put this comment in because Super Eye Patch Wolf addressed it, but apparently this is based on a webcomic, and the webcomic is like weirdly sexual, apparently. The anime is much less weirdly sexual. There's just that weird obsession everybody has with his dick. And the fact that he gets a hard-on every time he touches Nanachi's fur. And but it is also very fixated on the actual like logistics of being an adventurer, which includes more than a few scatological references. Like, people piss themselves so much, and you see so much urine. And at one point you see like literally bloody urine as the main character bleeds from every orifice because of a poison she had. And you learn that like every one of the top adventurers of the world are all insane in their own particular ways. But like, I cried so many times during the show. It's very cool. It's very artistic. And you just have this wonderful feeling of adventure and wonder as you proceed through it. So the first season, I cried so hard, and I really recommend it. The movie, which is, you have to actually watch the movie because it is a direct plot tie-in to the next season, is also profoundly fucked up and made me cry a lot. But like the final fight scene against the big bad guy adventurer was fucking epic. And the music in it is epic, and I'm crying my balls out here watching it. And it was so good. Then you come to the second season. And, you know, you hear me raving about season 1. You hear me raving about the movie. Season 2, I would say, is good. It's not great like the first season or the movie were. It's just good. And part of the problem with the main season is, A, it just outright starts off with sexual violence against a child, which is profoundly fucked up. So big content warning there for that. So definitely, if you're going into that, be aware that that's like literally one of the first things of the second season. And it goes into like the deep lore is what I will say. Because it runs 2 timelines. One being the timeline of the main characters from the first season, everything Rico and Reg and Nanichi, going down into the lower levels of the Abyss. But also, it does a dual plot line with these previous set of adventurers that went down into the Abyss, like thousands of years ago, or I think it's a couple hundred years ago. I think it's 250 years or 150 years prior. And their experiences getting used to the world and how fucked up it is, going to the bottom of it. And I felt like the exploration of the second plot line, while it provided a lot of like lore about the setting, I did not feel necessarily was the merit of the show, because at the end of the day, the focus on Rico and Reg is like part of the charm of the show. You feel like you're a part of their group as you're going down, and spending literally half the season on this other plotline that ultimately, you know, doesn't really have anything to deal with the main characters aside from the main characters getting involved in the after effects of it, I felt was not as great. I cried still. I cried throughout the fucking thing. Also, I also have to put this again. I have to make it very clear, talking about this show, it is so profoundly fucked up. I'm not even talking about the, you know, child sexual assault part at the start of the second season. The first season / movie involves this adventurer who's experimenting on how to counter the negative effects of magical radiation by experimenting on children, by basically dropping them down to a lower level of the Abyss and then forcibly pulling them back up so they suffer horrific mutation and form degradation, and then proceed to experiment on those children, continually medical experiments, to see how he can figure out how to explore, you know, what causes the curse of the Abyss, which causes the deformations. Additionally, in the movie, you find out that he's also figured out that he can basically resist those negative effects by chopping a child's essence down until they're basically just like a brain and a bloody orifice that he inserts into like a Nintendo cartridge that he puts on his person. And so whenever he would suffer negative effects associated with moving through the Abyss, the Nintendo cartridge child instead absorbs it, and their bloody organs basically just burst out, and he pops out the cartridge like it's a spent magazine. So the main characters literally have to defeat him by burning through all of his Nintendo cartridges of children. And so that's also fucked up. And then the big fucked up thing, I guess we're already pretty deep onto spoilers at this point, guys. I'm sorry if you wanted a spoiler-free review of these shows, but I'm gonna give you spoiler versions of everything if you haven't gathered at this point. In the second season, there's this girl who was kicked out of her like tribe of humans because her mom had a lot of kids, and the tribe of feral people really valued breedability. And this, like, little girl basically was determined that she couldn't have kids, so she was basically an outcast from the tribe. So her and the sexual assault victim become very good friends, and that girl views the victim as like a mother figure to her. And at the end of the day, this little girl's dream is to be a mommy. So eventually they discover, as all of the group of people that have delved to the bottom of the abyss. Okay, well, I hope you avoided, just don't listen to the shows I'm talking about that you actually want to see, Vaughn. Because I've talked about spoilers for just about everything. So eventually the tribe the group of people at the bottom comes down with this, like, plague, basically, of parasites from the water they've been drinking that there's no real cure for. And so, because of that, they end up finding basically a techno-magical thing that grants wishes, but all the wishes are obviously fucked up. And it only works for children. So they basically convince the tribal girl to make a wish to try and save everybody else, and it backfires horribly, because her one wish was to be a mommy, so her body proceeds to mutate into this horrific, like, just pile of flesh with, like, a giant orifice in it. And she eventually produces these little, like, bunny things that apparently don't have, like, any orify, and they die within, like, an hour of being born. But every time she loves these little bunny things like they're her actual children, and she feels immense emotional turmoil every time they die. So the head of the expeditionary group decides one day, as everybody in his group is dying, to take these children, these little animal children things, and chops them up into little pieces, and then feeds them to people in a very delicious stew. And when you eat this stew, you get cured of the parasites. And so he gives that to everybody, and then they start mutating. I mean, they don't start mutating yet. And then eventually the mom child freaks out about this. And so, the victim girl figures out that, like, he didn't put one wishing stone in her, he put 3 inside of her to try and do this power. So she ended up saving all of the expeditionary force, but her plan of becoming a mommy did not work. And so she eventually grows so big, she becomes like a tree-sized being that the rest of the people basically build a village inside of. And while they're in there, they're immune to the effects of the abyss and the radiation, but they become these horribly mutated creatures. And so, like, the whole plot line involves our main characters being in there. By the way, if you were wondering, yes, these weird creatures that live inside of this child mom thing have toilets, which are a creature with a tongue that literally gives you analingus to clean you. That was something they decided to describe for the audience. So yeah, the show is just so profoundly fucked up. And there is another, like, I'm gonna do another big content warning here, guys, about sexual assault, because I have to describe this because I think it's so tasteless that the show did it. And so if you don't want to hear about it, definitely mute me right now. I'll type okay in chat when I'm done describing this thing. So, here is, once again, content warning related to sexual assault of a child. So, as I described previously, one of the background characters of the other timeline was sexually assaulted by this, like, very thuggish, boorish character. So, the child that creates the tree thing manifests basically a protective guardian for the people inside, which is like this enormous ogre creature with this, like, greatsword. And she uses as the template for that the person, the big dude who perpetrated the assault on the one girl as the template for this guardian figure. And the reason why is because it was a part of the girl's memory, And so I don't really understand the particulars of it, but that's the basis for what the guardian figure is. It's literally the rapist. And so the artists decide to portray this character as a manifestation of the victim's memories mixed with its new role of a guardian by having a large vagina-shaped orifice on its chest with a series of stick figure lines of like stick figure people arrayed around the orifice with little arrows pointing towards it, creating a very clear message about the nature of that identity. And so I thought that was incredibly fucked up and incredibly tasteless. And, you know, that's season 2. That's the plot line we needed to go into. We needed to describe in our little fucking disaster adventure show. So just know going into that is a thing that happens. Okay, but yeah, so aside from that, the show is very good. I do recommend watching it, but obviously there is very clear disclaimers for especially the second season. So that's Made in Abyss. Also, hello JC, welcome, welcome. Hello Vespi, welcome, welcome. Whew! Alright, I gotta drink some water before I talk about Overlord. Overlord. I have seen 4 seasons of Overlord, and I can tell you, they only get worse after season 1. With the ultimate description of season 4 being what I would describe as a season of an anime. So here's how it goes. So season 1 of Overlord is good. Pretty much everyone likes season 1. The main character is Onlap, who's this guy who's playing basically a lich from an MMO, and he ends up getting sucked into like his MMO the day it closes. And then he and his NPCs that his friends created gets transported to a fantasy world, and hijinks ensue. Hello, the witch that shall hug you. Welcome, welcome. And season 1 is very good as you get introduced to all of these characters in his dungeon lair, all the monster people, and their dynamics and each of their wacky personalities and stuff. And him being super overpowered is totally fine. Now, this is an important note to make because the biggest weakness of all future seasons of Overlord will be the fact of how overpowered Ainz is. And I thought I really liked him being overpowered in season 1, and then I saw season 2, which originally I hated, and I feel so bad for saying I hated it, because after watching season 4, I realized season 2 was actually the appropriate way to handle the show. But, oh, JC wants to be a little PogChamp? Okay, that can be arranged. Oh, JC, I'm so happy you decided to do this redeem. I want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, JC, yes you are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that'll change that. So, Season 2 focuses on characters that aren't Ainz, nor are they Ainz's like main crew of people. Instead, they are people from the surrounding like fantasy world who you learn about their lives, their stories, and then you find out how Ainz and his super overpowered cast of people affects them. And at the time, I really hated it because I wanted to see Ainz and his buddies, but I realized that the way the show handles how powerful the main characters are going forward proves that they had no idea what to do with it after that point. Because they're actually incredibly boring going forward. Because they're so powerful, there's literally no threat to them. There's no risk at any encounter. There's no stakes in any real fight. Legitimately, in Season 4, Ainz kills multiple people using the exact same spell. He doesn't even do a different spell to kill people. He's just like, stop heart, stop heart, stop heart. And I'm like, okay, well, that was pointless. I'm glad we watched that. And so you're literally just kind of seeing Ainz get more powerful, and you're like, okay, but like, he's getting more powerful, but he's not earning it at all, is the problem. Because there are no threats to Ainz, and anybody who thinks they're a threat to Ainz is immediately emasculated by Ainz and his followers. And it's almost laughable at times how much that just makes it so that just stuff happens in the show. The show is strongest when it's people reacting to these incredibly powerful people disrupting their world balance. And I kept thinking as the series progressed, oh, now a player is going to show up. Now another player is going to show up so they can finally have somebody who Ainz will view as a threat, who will be a risk to Ainz, and it never happens. It never happens. And like, Season 4 is the worst offender for this. Because, and mind you, I haven't read manga for any of the shows I've talked about here. I don't read manga, I'm not a nerd. No, it's mostly because I don't have the time or inclination. The time I would spend reading manga, I actually spend reading doujin. All porn, all the time. So, with that in mind, apparently, they skip, like, a whole, like, arc of the plotline in Season 4, which would be relevant for setting up why anything is happening in Season 4. So, they just ignore that. And so you walk into this being like, I don't understand what's going on, and apparently we're just going to roll with that for an entire season. It also introduces you to characters you've never been introduced before, who you don't understand even why they're in the show, and ultimately have zero relevance on the storyline. Specifically, there's Albedo's sister, which was apparently designed as a horror movie character, which is super powerful and fucked up, but she gets introduced into an episode as imprisoned. Ainz talks to her. She pleads. Well, I'm already spoiling Season 4. She pleads with Ainz to like not be a dick, and then Ainz promptly ignores her, and then she never appears again in the season. And I was like, why did I just watch an episode about this? This added nothing to the season at all, and I don't even understand why it happened. And there's an episode where you spend 5 minutes of real people time watching people talk about tea and drinking tea, only to set up the fact that they were drugging this character so that they could beat her in a fight, so they could teleport her out of the fight before Ainz and his crew show up to kill them. And I'm like, you didn't need to do this. You could have just had them teleport out. I would have believed you. I did not need this preface to it, which added nothing to the season. And literally, these characters just got introduced into this episode, really, for you to care about. And I'm like, I don't care. Why is this happening? And apparently, also in the manga / light novels or whatever, like there is this current of struggle between Ainz and the fact of the player of Ainz, and how the player of Ainz is, he's a doofus. He's a fucking doofus of a person, apparently. But Ainz is a fucking psychopath because he's an evil lich person. And apparently by entering the fantasy world, Ainz, the personality, is fighting with the main character, the personality, for control. And that struggle is like a gradual thing over the course of the series, which is important. Now, the show doesn't introduce that at all. They made one comment in like the first season of like, oh man, I don't know why, but like, I feel like my emotions are getting weaker. And then it's never talked about again. And then you have these weird tone shifts because Ainz will go from being like a ridiculous comic relief person when the player is doing stuff, but then will also just be a mass murderer for some reason when not. And it's like never explained that it's actually an internal struggle happening. You're just like, oh, I guess funny moments he's one way, not funny moments he's another way. So I felt like that was another huge failing of the show that only gets compounded as it continues. Also, thank you for the resub, Cyber Cyrus VTuber. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Always happy to have a brave knight arising and enjoying those sweet, sweet emotes. And also, further on top of that, Albedo, who's his like #1 demon girl, she gets reprogrammed to be in love with him. Like the player reprograms her to love him before he gets teleported into the fantasy world. Now, apparently in the light novels, she is in love with the player. She does not like Ainz. And so she notices the tone shifts between Ainz and the player and becomes more concerned as Ainz becomes more dominant rather than the player, because she actually does not like Ainz. That, however, is not done in the show. She is the biggest Ainz simp ever, and all it is addressed in is how much of a simp she is for Ainz. So, yeah, these are a lot of the failings of Overlord as the series continued. And it eventually culminates in a season where you're like, stuff happens, I guess, I don't really care. I don't really care about any of the threats, I don't care about any of these characters. Also, definitely go check out Lynzia. She's a very cute demon, beautiful artist, amazing person, very British. Be sure to send her plenty of love. She's got a very cool, like, cyber demon art style for her VTuber model. So that's my thoughts about Overlord as a series, and Season 4 specifically is just such a fucking tragedy. Because here we're going to talk about storytelling, and this is why storytelling is important, because this is one of the reasons why I hate Gate, which is the last show I'm going to be talking about. When you have a super powerful protagonist, you have to figure out what is the purpose that that power level adds to the story. For example, comedy anime do the super powerful protagonist infinitely better than I've seen dramatic anime do it. And the problem is, dramatic anime, it always comes off as, it's a power fantasy, it's escapist power fantasy. So, in a comedy anime, like One Punch Man, for example, One Punch Man can defeat anything with one punch. That is the premise of the show. That is what he does in the show. Him being so powerful is not ultimately like the main thing of the show, because the main character that you really focus on is Genos, who is a normal, like, very powerful hero. And his struggles and his POV gives you context for why it matters when Saitama one-punches something, to add to the comedy of a given moment. But the ultimate story, Genos is the main character of it. Saitama is more of a force of nature in the anime. In Bofuri, for example, Maple's story, the main character, she is a super powerful girl in this video game, but her being super powerful is just like the context for her meeting a bunch of cute people that she becomes friends with. And the show is really just about her and her friends going on adventures and being cute together. Her being super powerful and able to stop every threat is ultimately not nearly as narratively important as her just being sweet and not having any real threats to her because of her power level just lets her be cute with her friends. Overlord suffers from the fact of Ainz and his cast are so powerful, there is no threats to them. However, they're the main characters, and this is at its core a serious quote-unquote anime. So what does Ainz being so powerful add to the show? Ultimately allows him to super flex on everyone he encounters and allows him to get more powerful and, spread his conquest. However, that's it. But he's our main character. Like, he's the one we're looking at this as, and even his sidekicks can kill everything in but like a simple attack or simple spell. So there's no risk to anybody, there's no stakes to anybody, and them being super powerful takes away from the story, because why do you care? Why do you care about anything Ainz or his people do? Every plot of, subterfuge or intrigue or like playing up somebody as this big badass from this world is only ever like set up so it could be immediately stomped in a single attack. Every single time. So like, why do you care? There's only so many times you can see Ainz flex on people, specifically when he just stops doing new spells and just does the same spell over and over again. And it's like, why do I care about anything that's happening in this show? Like, why does it even matter if Ainz is becoming more powerful? What does that even mean for the series? What does this mean for my investment in these characters', interests and agendas? So that is the fundamental problem of Overlord, and the reason why it suffers is because our main POV characters, are the very people of unimaginable destructive power. When the show focuses on people like the Emperor of the Empire, or when it did the season 2 focusing on like the lizard people and stuff, we got to see the world dealing with Ainz through their eyes. And that makes them into this terrifying threat of unimaginable power. But you can also understand why it is so important for those characters to try and deal with someone like him, because he is such an existential threat to them. And so there are legitimate stakes for the other characters viewing this, but there are not stakes for the main characters. There's not stakes for Ainz, so why do I even give a fuck? So that's my thought about why Overlord does not work as a show. And I feel like people lobbied so hard after season 2, and I feel so bad because season 2 was actually the best way to do the show. So, take that in consideration if you watch Overlord. Yeah, it's just like, whatever. And I will say, I did not expect in a million years the final season of Overlord to end with a musical sequence by one of the characters. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a thing that happened. So, yes, that is why I would describe Overlord Season 4 as a season of an anime. I didn't hate it, but I didn't ultimately like it either, and as I would say, my mother would always say, the opposite of love is not hate, the opposite of love is apathy. It doesn't make you feel anything. And that's how I felt at the end of Season 4 of Overlord. I'm just like, okay, the show didn't really make me feel anything, I just kind of stopped caring partway through it. So, now we come to last, but oh, certainly not least. We come to Gate. Now, I have to whip out my notes for this because specifically, I was requested to watch episode 17 of the anime Gate. If you need to know one thing about Obsidia and her view on anime, is that Obsidia fucking hates Gate. Well, I wish I could be apathetic towards Gate, but I can't because it angers me on such fundamental levels all across the board. And in context, I watched the first 12 episodes of Gate prior to the request for me to watch episode 17 specifically. Here we go. So I'm going to do episode 17, and then I'm going to lead it into why Gate as a series as a whole is so problematic and so terrible. So episode 17 of Gate deals with our main character, who is the most ridiculous, like, somehow special forces of everything, lazy otaku Japanese officer. And his group of waifu has to team up with some dark elves who had their like village attacked by this big dragon, which has been a reoccurring threat throughout the first half of the season. So he comes up with this plan to basically give the dark elves like RPGs, basically like these anti-tank missile launcher things. And this is a reoccurring issue with Gate as a whole, but there is always this near fetishistic obsession with military hardware in Gate. Like, it's almost like Gate spends more time focusing on the various military hardware that they're using than they do on the gratuitous fan service, which they're also using, to really show you where the priorities of the show are at. So they spend lots of time, you know, almost luridly going over these different weapons and different modern hardware given to these Dark Elves. And then they eventually set up like an enormous yeah, I know, it's the author's fetish. I know. I'm gonna get into the author. I will get into the author. So eventually he sets up like 150 kilos of C4 in this dragon's den. And the dragon shows up and proceeds to murder a lot of the Dark Elves. And they ignore all the advice he told them. And then he blows up the dragon by detonating the C4. So the dragon dies. And you're like, okay, I guess. All right. The RPGs ultimately ended up being fairly pointless in this because the C4 was what literally does everything. But, you know, that is what it is. So now we come to them fleeing from the site of the destroyed dragon. And they go back to the surface and we encounter Rory Mercury, who is a character I'm going to go into much more detail about in my reasons why I hate Gate as a show. But Rory Mercury, in context, is a super powerful, horny, murder lolly god of death. And she is so incredibly powerful, but they encounter her super fucked up back on the surface, and they're like, oh no, what happened? And apparently what happened was she made like a pact with the main character that she would absorb his wounds. So when he got hit by like the backblast of one of these RPGs, she got it instead. And this led to another horny lolly murder god, Dragon Girl, showing up and beating her up because she's like, aha, she's finally weak enough. Ah ha ha ha, you fools. And she goes, it was I who awakened the dragon to murder all of these people because I needed it to wake up so it could pump out some eggs for me so I could have my own dragons. These 2 dragons I will show off to come kill you. You guys are so pathetic, I do not need to kill you myself. I instead will send dragons after you. And so then the main character and his crew of waifus are fleeing away from the lolly and her dragons. And the dragons are very poorly CGI'd. Very poorly CGI'd. And they're chasing after them. And they're like about to summon their fire to like burn the characters. But they spend about to summon their fire for, I'm gonna say like 30 seconds of screen time. So a very long swath of screen time. And you know what happens then? You know how they defeat the dragons? You know how they defeat the lolly? Is it the main character's actions? Is it the actions of his assembled waifu over the course of this anime? No. It's Deus Ex Military. Because for some reason that has not been like explained at all or even established in any part of the episode, the Japanese just happened to have 2 fighter jets nearby who proceed to fire like a single missile each, which kills each one of the dragons immediately. And then a whole bunch of self-propelled artillery platforms start unloading artillery shells into the dragons and around the lolly for unknown reasons, as well as a bunch of Japanese soldiers come running up, and the lolly flees this level of destruction. And that's the fucking episode! That is the episode of 17 of Gate. And so now we're gonna go into why I hate Gate as a whole. So I fucking hate Gate. I think Gate is one of the worst things that I've seen as an anime. So here's the problem with Gate. Gate is an isekai in almost one of the cringiest power fantasies I've ever seen, because the power fantasy is for the Japanese military as a whole. And so the premise of the show is that a portal opens up one day in Japan, and monsters and like fantasy people come into this world and start just killing like random Japanese people on the street. And so as they're massacring people, this main character, who's this lazy otaku, which has this reoccurring meme of he has somehow done every form of special forces training in existence and is the world's most greatest elitist soldiers, despite being a second lieutenant and a lazy otaku, flees from these and able to rally, and then the Japanese self-defense force shows up and kills all the fantasy people, and then launches a counterattack through the portal into the fantasy world. Now, here's one of the main problems with Gate. Gate, at the best of times, is mind-numbingly boring. And the reason why it's boring is much like I described the way Overlord was boring. Because it has no real stakes. Japanese people do not die in this show. Japanese people sometimes get a little injured in it, but it is set up that the Japanese military is so leaps and bounds more powerful than this fantasy world that they can massacre with impunity everything the world can throw at them. And it's almost laughable how much they massacre them. And so it is given, rather than trying to explore like a fantasy world versus a modern military, it is rather showing, look how fucking laughable it is that a fantasy world's like magic and swords could ever compete with my trusty assault rifle and machine gun. And so it just becomes this almost like bully use of military force against people who cannot possibly defend themselves from it. And that continues the entire series. So the main character is this doofus of a man, who's somehow the greatest person ever, ends up basically hooking up with waifus from all across the fantasy world who are all obsessed with him. And he meets Rory Mercury. Now, the problem with Rory Mercury is, as a character, she's fine. She's a fine character. She's got a cute design. She's a horny murder lolly god. But she is the reason why the show fundamentally does not work as a series. Because the Japanese military is so much stronger than everything that's put against them, and she is literally a god who can defeat entire armies by herself. And if she had been used against the Japanese military, they could have actually had a serious threat, potentially. But she's not. She immediately joins up with the Japanese to further create the learning curve of destruction that they have against this world. And so that anything that a normal gun or missile or whatever could not harm, Rory Mercury can single-handedly defeat on her own. Therefore, there are zero stakes in the show. There is zero risk to the characters. Anytime they're in a fight, it doesn't matter. Guns or Rory Mercury can stop it. And so you don't care about any fight that happens. The only reason why you like the fights that happen in Gate is because you want to see gratuitous military hardware being used against random people and monsters. And so, like, the most iconic fight that everyone talks about being so good is a fight that ends up being basically a shot-for-shot recreation of the helicopter assault landings from Apocalypse Now. And, like, as an artist, I can appreciate that. However, it was done on the cusp of, like, these, 6 Japanese characters who only one of them actually has any real personality to them, fighting, a bandit army with some locals, and then these helicopters show up and just massacre everyone. And that's how it's solved. And so it just leads to this incredibly boring format of, like, it's entirely squandering the premise that they were given. You could have had a really interesting clash between modern technological prowess and magic of a fantasy world and monsters. But instead, they end up just giving magic and all the capabilities of gods to the Japanese, so it just becomes kind of just a roving crush fest of them versus everything they do. And everyone else in the world just kind of, like, okay, well, we're gonna try and stop them even though we got nothing, or we're gonna keep trying to stop each other, and then the Japanese get involved. So, like, at the base level, I think it's very boring. Now we're gonna talk about why it's really, really, really fucking problematic as a show specifically by the Japanese. Now, it is very clear the show is Japanese military propaganda at its core. The author of the series was, he did his time with the Japanese Self-Defense Force, and he was really mad that more people didn't like the Japanese military in Japan. So he created this fan fiction where the Japanese military are such good guys and are so good and so awesome that nobody can stop them, and they can go crush all of the bad guys, quote unquote, of this less developed world. And they're also so humanitarian and altruistic and stuff. Isn't that great? Seeing how much the Japanese are so fucking awesome and the military is so fucking awesome. And so the problem with this, for one, is, in case you were unaware, the Japanese military has a bit of a bad reputation that it very, very earnestly earned because of its actions in World War II. It so colossally fucked up as a military that they were not allowed to have a military for a while on account of all the genocide and mass murder. Now, when you have Japan poised as a literal technological and societal superior to less developed fantasy people, there are obviously clear parallels to a Japanese colonial relationship with East Asia. And you can see why that may have problematic undertones when you're talking about Japanese militarism and colonialism in a world. Especially where the people of that world are literally backwards barbarians compared to the Japanese, which was a common portrayal by the Japanese and their military and their racial outlook towards the rest of East Asia. Now, you could see why that would be problematic unto itself. Also, the fact that the Japanese have this portal that they won't allow the rest of the international community access to, where, mind you, the United States is viewed as the bad guy in this setting, also kind of cringy, because they do not trust the rest of the world getting a hold of these fantasy people and their resources. They need Japanese military paternalism to be able to safeguard these poor, ignorant, helpless fantasy people. Now, furthermore, now we're going to talk about waifu, and why waifu is really problematic in this setting. So, when you have, as I previously framed it, the Japanese military and its poor track record of relations with other cultures, there also is very problematic when the Japanese are intervening into this fantasy world where they're taking women from that fantasy world who are just naturally drawn to the Japanese, and specifically a masculine Japanese military man, to think of them as just so great and such wonderful protectors and such great stewards of them. Because, as you are aware, this also comes with the issue of all of the good people in the show are fantasy girls, all the bad people are fantasy boys. And this is very much like the men of this world are the problem and the women are good once they're given access to a good Japanese soldier, which is obviously incredibly problematic when you make them very horny, because it has clear homages to the Japanese comfort women system prior to and during World War II. So this literally makes basically a form of acceptable comfort women. And it's also problematic when you've got a fucking horny lolly as a part of that, because it adds children's aspects to that. So you have this very, very sexist, racist portrayal of Japanese militarism that is entirely unchecked. They are undefeated in every encounter they make. The world would be better in this fantasy setting if they were to trust themselves to their superior Japanese masters who know better. And so you can see why that is also incredibly problematic for this anime to portray. And so these are the reasons why I hate Gate. As a just baseline artistic property, it is boring. As a isekai, it entirely squanders its premise to be able to just do military pornography of showing all this awesome military equipment mass murdering the people and creatures of this world. And as a cultural and historical piece in the context of Japan and its creator, it's military propaganda that is also basically taking the worst traits of Japanese history and repainting them and reframing them in a positive light to show how charming they would be if only the rest of the world would let them and allow them to their own devices. So this is why I hate Gate. This is why I will always talk about how much I hate Gate. This is why I will always rant about Gate. And this is why I say, you are allowed to like Gate, but I hope that you hear my words and you come to the conclusion that maybe I should reconsider how much I like Gate, because it is so profoundly bad and, at worst, absolutely fucked up. So, there you go. That is the Gate rant. That is episode 17. And tossing my notes away once more. That is my anime reviews. That is Gate. Lavos is progressively genuinely angry Obsidian is becoming. By the way, hello Small. You guys should 100% go check out Small and Strong. He is a very funny British Catboy meme. He's very well hung. He enjoys masochism. He does lots of time making all of his content designed around viewer interaction and creativity. It's an incredibly enjoyable experience to watch him, and I think you'll definitely get a positive outlook of watching him suffer by your hands. He's also incredibly well hung. Whew! Oh, Litro, I've seen Tanya the Evil, and I have thoughts about Tanya the Evil. I don't think Tanya the Evil is as problematic. A, because it's not actually Nazis, it's World War I, but then they have a movie where it is Nazis, and that's kind of awkward. Sure, St. Tiltover, what is your question about anime? Let me know if any of you guys have any questions about my reviews, your own thoughts, any questions about anime as a whole. I love movies, I love anime, I love talking about storytelling, and I really, you're allowed to like Game, but I genuinely judge you for it. Yeah, that's basically it, Masterfell, that's basically it. I do genuinely judge you for it. And like, I am really sorry if anybody really likes Gate. But yeah, I do not. I do not, and I cannot. Oh, have you seen the anime Outbreak Company? I have not. I have not really heard about it. What's the worst anime I've ever watched? Well, aside from Gate? God. It's hard to say because that involves modern tech plus fantasy elements. I'll have to think about that one, Vaughn. I'm just trying to think. Hello, BlazeCon. Welcome, welcome. The worst anime I've watched, I'm not going to count like bad 90s animes and stuff because that's not really fair to the 90s. They were very much a product of their time. Poor Eros. Eros knows I love him. Let me think. Probably, God, I think one of the only anime I had to stop watching was World's Finest Assassin, Reincarnated. That was probably one of the few anime I had to stop watching partway through it. It had just too much child sexual assault in an anime for me to keep watching it. And once I found out it was by the author of Redo of Healer, it all made sense. Got you. Outbreak Company. Interesting, interesting. My favorite 90s anime, Litro, is probably Outlaw Star. As I talked about earlier in the stream, I love Outlaw Star. Like, when I was a teenager, it was Outlaw Star, Van Helsing, Trigun, Rurouni Kenshin. Rurouni Kenshin was actually the first trans girl I ever saw in an anime. She was a bad guy, but that was my initial 8-crack moment, was watching Rurouni Kenshin when the villain girl who uses a Kasurigama was revealed to be trans. And I was like, oh really? This might be something I can divine my whole personality around. Oh, hello Gerard. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Other bad anime? Oof. Probably Vampire Hunter D. Obviously, Vampire Hunter D is great. Yeah, I'm not gonna weigh in too heavily on the lolly shota aspects of stuff. Like, that's a whole other talk. It is very much probably not TOS, and at the end of the day, I don't really care. So I'm not gonna talk about those as one of the aspects of it. But worst anime. It's so hard because there's something, like, I'm gonna tell you about the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. If something is really bad, it can still be fun. A really bad anime can be really entertaining. But like, if something is just flat out like, it's so bad I can't watch it. I know an anime that I immediately like had to give up on was actually from this season, which was Eminence in the Shadow. That was an anime that wildly misdid its tone of its show. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Before that rant, I did like Gate, not so much anymore. Well, I'm glad I at least gave you a different perspective on Gate. Did you look up for Aisha? How much culture did you look up for Aisha? Asia Clan, sorry. Because Asia is also a character in Realist Hero, which I liked up until it became all about slavery, which was... I have a whole other isekai rant about slavery in isekai and why it is so profoundly fucked up and why it keeps getting perpetuated, I think ruins every isekai it's a part of. And it's kind of a commonality. Almost every isekai I hate makes slavery like an integral part of it for recruiting waifu. And I think that's totally fucked up. Every anime I have to watch with, with slavery in it, I could instead be watching Quasar of the Stigmata, which is all about seeing tits with magical breast milk that people have to drink from to power alchemy. That is real content I could be watching. Yeah, in my opinion, Shield Hero's worst trait is the slavery thing. I literally would say, like, describe an anime poorly. Shield Hero is about alleged sex offender buys child slave to fight and die for him until she falls in love with him. That is described Shield Hero poorly. Like, think about it. Like, we all love Raphtalia. Raphtalia is adorable. She's a good waifu. However, Raphtalia was a literal child that murdered so many things for this dude, she leveled up into an adult. And we're supposed to accept that that is like a totally okay thing, and that makes her an acceptable waifu. Yes, I love Fallout New Vegas, so I had to do a reference to New Vegas in my background. So yeah, God, what are other terrible anime? So hard for me. I try not to watch bad anime. I try to just watch silly rom-coms. And a lot of the rom-coms I watch are like highly recommended to me by people, so it's hard for me to say what is absolutely the worst. Ugh, but yeah, slavery is a whole other rant I have about isekai. Slavery for Stockholm Syndrome waifus, I think, is literally the worst thing about isekais. Yes. The benevolent slave owner, I think, is it's an awful portrayal in real life. It's literally a part of like the lies spread by people who try to do like the lost cause myth about the Confederacy, about how good the slaves had it back in the day. But yeah, it is so fucked up that it's just an accepted thing in isekai specifically as the worst perpetrators of it. An anime you love but can't really recommend. Oof. I love so much trash. Yeah, what is an anime I absolutely love that I can't recommend to people? It's gotta be something that's super horny. God, what is it? Okay, an anime I love that I can't recommend to people is probably it probably does fall down to Quasar of the Stigmata. I've watched 3 episodes of that show and it is so trashy and so problematic, but I love it. Oh, I love High School DxD. I would 1,000,000% recommend High School DxD to people. If you want to see one of the best done harem animes, where every waifu is great, they all are incredibly enthusiastically consenting to want to fuck the main character, and you get to see just copious amounts of tits, I would say go watch High School DxD. It is so good. Yeah, Sword Art Online, like, Sword Art Online is not an anime I particularly like. I watched it. I watched, like, the first 2 seasons of it. I just, like, it's, like, whatever. It's one of those things that I don't hate it, I just don't care about it. I recommend it to friends. It's, fucking, High School DxD is so good. Watch the dub! You have to watch the dub, also because Rias is best girl, and don't even fucking at me. Well, it is old. It is old ass, Carlo. It's from the fucking, like, early 2000s or mid 2000s. My favorite trashy anime, which I will always recommend, but it's, like, something that people actually like, so I'm not going to say I'm ashamed to recommend it, is, of course, Everyday Life with Monster Girls. I love that anime. It's one of the few anime I will watch the entirety of every now and then when I'm feeling sad, because it is so goddamn funny. It has so many good monster girl waifus. It's so dumb. It's so funny. My Next Life is a Villainess and Monster Musume are the 2 anime I can rewatch over and over and over again. And I will always recommend them because they're amazing. Yeah, like, I don't care about Kirito. Like, Kirito's whatever. It just is what it is. It's mediocre, to quote Immortan Joe. Like, my favorite anime ever is Konosuba. And I always have to say, like, I love Konosuba so much, and I hate the fact that the movie has to be transphobic. I really hate that fact. Transphobia for laughs is literally the worst thing the Japanese culture does. And of that, American culture does too, but I just want it to not be a thing in my anime. And thankfully, it is a very small part of the movie as well as the series as a whole. Like, I love Konosuba, it's my flat-out favorite anime, and I actually think the dub of it is absolutely mind-numbingly hilarious. But yeah, the transphobia in the movie is just like, oh, why? Why do you have to do this to me? Why do you have to tamper with what I love? Yeah, and the Crimson Demon Clan are absolutely amazing. So Konosuba is my favorite anime. Next Life is a Villainess is probably my second favorite anime. Interview with Monster Girls is so cute. You should 1,000,000% watch Interview with Monster Girls. It is adorable. All the Monster Girls are so sweet and they're so cute. And actually the amount of work it spends on their like everyday life is kind of impressive. Like the Doulahan girl, like being like, yeah, somebody holding my head is like a deeply intimate thing because it means so much for trust. And then the vampire girl is a total gremlin. And the succubus teacher is the best character in the show because she's super horny. And she does everything she can to not make people horny, even though she makes people horny just by existing. I love the succubus teacher. She is like my favorite character. Definitely, if you like Monster Girls and you want to see a really cute show, go watch Interview with Monster Girls. It is absolutely adorable. And then what else is there? Kaguya-sama Love is War is one of the best anime ever, but also the single best rom-com ever. And I can't recommend that enough. It's amazing. Oh, interspecies reviewers! I love interspecies reviewers. Hello, Kelsh. We just finished all of my all the reviews that were recommended to me prior to the stream. Now I'm just talking about shows I like and ridiculous shit. So now we're going to talk about interspecies reviewers. I watched the Uncensored interspecies reviewers, the only way to watch the show, mind you, as a debonair woman of culture. And I have to say, the show is an amazing satire of hentai. Like, the amount of hentai tropes that it plays with is phenomenal. The show is amazing. Also, like, 90% of the girls are amazing. And the only episode I didn't like was the egg-laying episode, because that's not my thing. But I appreciate the fact they still felt the need to do it. Also, Krim, most breedable intersex boy ever, 100% would breed again. Also, fucking well-hung hyena girls. Oh my god, that reminds me of the one show I can't recommend, that I love but I can't recommend to people, Small. I figured it out. Talking about well-hung hyena girls brought it to my mind. So, well-hung hyena girls in interspecies reviewers, that is another great aspect. There is literally super well-hung tomboy hyena girl that is also a porn star. And she fucking rails out Krim, and it's like everything I would actually want in porn. a femboy getting just destroyed by a huge dick hyena girl. I'm so sad that we will never get a season 2 of Interspecies because it was so good. It was so misunderstood. Okay, Small. I have the anime that Yuko and I love that I can't recommend to people because it is absolute trash and so fucking problematic. But that anime is Seitan Academy. 1,000,000% Seitan Academy. Seitan Academy is so insane and so stupid and so shockingly kind of racist that it's incredible. The main character of Seitan Academy, after we watched the series, Yuko and I would just describe him as Uncle Ruckus. He's Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks, but like racist towards animal people. So here's the premise. Here's the premise of I'm gonna type it in chat so you guys can see it. Seitan's Academy, I believe it's called Welcome to the Pack or something, or Join the Pack. So the premise of the show is the main character, Jin, and is a human that attends a high school made up entirely of animal people. And there is one other human there who's a girl, who's a very cute girl. And Jin really fucking hates animal people. It's unclear if Jin and this other human girl are the only humans in this world, or if there's just a lot of animal people in the world and they're just kind of a minority. But they attend this school, and all of the female animal people are basically like animal waifus. All the male animal people have like legitimately like a lion head, as opposed to a normal girl head with like little lion ears. And Jin is super fucking racist towards animal people because when he was a kid, there was this little wolf girl that was getting picked on by some other animals, and he tried to defend her, and they beat the shit out of him, and then left him there, and he never forgave the animal people for the racism inflicted on him. I did watch Monster Girl Doctor. I have thoughts about it, but I want to talk about Seitan Academy more. So, he attends this school, and he hates basically every person in it. And he's super intolerant towards them. He constantly talks down to them and uses basically what I would say is animal slurs towards them. But he's trying to get in the pants of the human girl who everybody likes and is friends with everyone. So she sets up this cooking club that he joins to be with her, that all these animal people end up joining and becoming friends with them. One of the animal people is this small little pink wolf girl who is so cute and so adorable, who is absolutely in love with Jin. She wants to like breed with Jin so badly, and she tells him that. But Jin fucking hates her. And it's very clear that she was actually the animal girl that he tried to save as a child that he got beaten up over, but he doesn't realize that. So she loves him. They recruit a sloth girl who's hilarious because she's asleep all the time, and every time she's made to do any actual activity, she dies. There's a koala girl who is a total gremlin, and like the president of the school is a naked mole rat who, like, the naked mole rats all wear underwear. They're not totally naked, but she's like the one female naked mole rat, and she's like super cute and wears her little bra and panties, and she hates wearing clothing. So she whenever she's around school, she has to wear clothing, but she's like super overjoyed when she can return to all of her other mole rats and she can take it off. But all the other mole rats are like these actual like tiny mole rat like gremlin dudes wearing tidy whities. And so hijinks ensue. There's a hyena girl, which is the best girl in the show, named Yenna, who she's a total tomboy, who originally identifies as a boy in the show, because she's like super alpha, like tough guy tomboy. And the main character is like, yeah, but you're a girl. And like everybody in the show is like, yeah, we know she's a girl. And she's like, what do you mean I'm a girl? I've got a dick. I'll fucking show it to you. And she like starts taking off her pants. And they drop in Jin's like, no, you don't have to fucking show me. Fucking, girls have those too for hyenas. And that's where I learned an actual fact about real life spotted hyenas. Female hyenas have a fake penis, which contains their vagina. And so, yeah, so that's a legitimate thing. It's actually almost impossible to tell a male and female hyena apart if you're not like real close to them, since they both have dicks. So she gets shooketh by this information and decides to try and like, maybe I should embrace being a girl hyena. And she does that for a while, and she totally NTRs the main character with his human girl. And eventually she decides she's more comfortable presenting masculine. And, her family accepts her for what she is. So that's like really cute. Yenna is best girl. Also, we've got Michael here. Can we please have a drum roll, please, for Michael? As we're gonna do the official Obsidia birthday song because it is Michael the Master of V's birthday today! Happy birthday, happy birthday, dearest Michael! So there you go, Michael. The tragic side about hyena dick is that since they have a dick, it means that and that's where their vagina is, it means that they have a very high mortality rate when giving birth, as trying to squeeze a child through your penis is obviously very painful. Yeah, basically the hyena girl is trying to become a better girl, so she's studying under the main female human, and she just like is macking on this female human every chance she can get. And the main character human guy gets really pissed because she like will full on like grab the girl and like hold her close and stuff and hang out with her and not feel self-conscious or anything. Also, we have gremlin noises from The Witch, so here we go. Silly gremlin noises. There you go, silly gremlin noises. So, yeah. So there you go. Satan Academy involves this plucky group of characters encountering many kinds of animal waifu. Like, one of the subplot lines involves this big lion dude who's this alpha who's got like 9 lion bitches. Who he's in love with a gazelle, which is really problematic because she's terrified of him because he's a predator who eats gazelle, and so she's afraid he's gonna eat her, but he actually just wants to fuck her and date her, and so he ends up shaving his mane so that all of the lion bitches leave him alone so that he can instead start dating her and he ends up getting somewhat cucked by a giraffe. And there's a whole episode involving all the girls in the school having their mating season, and like everybody getting super horny. So it's very hilarious. It's very horny, very stupid, very ridiculous. It's so trashy. I can't recommend it to people, but it's also somewhat amazing. And I love it for just how much of a fucking meme of a show it is. So that's probably my favorite trash anime. Monster Doctor is very meh. Yes, Wolf Girl's sister is also very huge and very hot. Kelsh. By the way, thank you for the follow, Kelsh. I really appreciate it. I hope you're having a great night. Happy to have you along. Yeah, apparently it's a thing. The show is very inconsistent about its premise for animals eating each other. Monster Girl Doctor is very meh, partially because it's super inconsistent. Okay, Small, have a great night in the sweetest of dreams. Thank you for coming by. Monster Girl Doctor tries, one, to both be very ecchi, but also to be like a legitimate medical drama, which was kind of insane to me. I did appreciate when they had the bondage training for a centaur, which I thought was immensely entertaining. Also, I will always be happy seeing hot Minotaur girls with their huge milky tits. That's just an Obsidian thing. I have a cowgirl fetish, it is what it is. But the problem is, when you're trying to balance being ecchi with also a medical drama, it kind of winds up to be this really weird in-between that kind of fails at both. Like, I watched the show and it was like, yeah, this is fine. It's not a show I hated, it's not a show I particularly liked. The zombie girl was really hot. The giant girl was obviously really hot. It also has the hottest Lamia. The albino Lamia girl was super hot. Also, just a note about monster girls as a whole, I am deathly afraid of spiders in real life. However, watching Monster Musume, Rachnea is my favorite waifu out of it, because Dami Mami Bondage Spider Girl hits apparently a lot of visceral parts of my brain. However, Monster Doctor, and to be clear, if you haven't seen it, Rachnera's spider bits she's based on a Black Widow. In Monster Girl Doctor, there is also a spider girl. However, her body is based off of a tarantula, and seeing a furry spider girl, that does not do it for me. It's really uncomfortable for me seeing a tarantula girl. So yeah. But when he had to stick his hands inside of a mermaid's gills to see how full of mucus they were, that was kind of gross. Alright, Master Fail, I'm glad you came by. I hope you have a great night. I'm glad I got to rant about Gate for you and by you. Yeah, I agree, Vaughn. I agree. The best girl, obviously, of Monster Girl Doctor is the centaur maid who requires to be strapped into bondage to feel comfortable. So, yeah, that's my stance about Monster Girls. Oh, we could also have a brief dance to Obsidia talking about when she tried to look at Monster Girl Dojin. So, I watched Monster Musume, and I'm like, man, those are some hot girls. I really like them. I'm gonna go check out the Monster Girl section of N Hentai. Now, I learned something about myself as well as something about the artists who do Monster Girl Hentai. And that is, of course, that one, the artists who do Monster Girl Hentai make their monster girls painfully anatomically correct. And that is really gross to me. Having like the Lamia vagina be like halfway down her tail, having just everything associated with the spider girl, I could not deal with the way that monster girls are portrayed in actual porn. It is just super gross to me. So I learned that about myself, that I can enjoy Monster Girls as a topless and from a distance variety, but beyond that, it is just not my thing. What else is there about Monster Girls? I felt like I had one more comment about Monster Girls. Oh, centaurs! While we're talking about Monster Girls, we're going to talk about the interesting world building of a centaur's life. Let me know in chat if you've ever seen a centaur's life. It is this slice of life and... Oh no, I got hiccups. It is a slice of life anime about monster girls. They're like monster people in a world where everybody is a monster person. That's literally like our society, except everybody's a monster person. So with that, the main character is a centaur girl, and the show goes into almost painful detail about how the bodies of various monster people work in this world. Like the special clothes and like toilets and stuff that the centaur girl has to use because of her unique body shape. And like the show it's pretty cute, but we're gonna get into the one episode where you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? So you're watching this cute slice of life show about monster girls. And there's like a whole episode where the centaur girl is wondering what her vagina looks like because she's never seen it, because obviously she's a fucking horse. How is she gonna see it? So her girlfriends get together and they basically all show each other their vaginas, which from what I understand is something that cis girls actually do, like when they're teenagers or younger or whatever. But so they all show each other their vaginas and they like use mirrors and stuff to finally show the centaur girl what hers looks like. And you're like, okay, well that was a thing. And there is the cutest combination of a puppy with an angel that I've ever seen. It's this little baby of one of the main character girls who, she's from the angel monster people, but her like dad was like a dog person or something. So like all of her brothers and sisters have like dog traits as well. And so they got little tails and like little ears, but also little angel wings. And they're in like this cute little overalls, and it's the cutest thing ever. But so in the middle of this slice of life monster show, you know what also happened in this monster version of Earth? Fucking the Holocaust. They do this brief detour literally in the center of the season where we go to this angel who was a French angel who was apparently put into a fucking concentration camp that happened when a group of fucking monster Nazis came to power and started genociding people for being inferior monster people. And he gets to live in this concentration camp where he gets hated by other people in it for being the wrong race, basically. And right when some of the other inmates are about to fucking kill him, the camp gets liberated by the American centaurs, and he proceeds to use the fact that he survived Monster Holocaust to become a big altruistic philanthropist who helps this group of basically frog people, like terrorists who are trying to resist being basically forcibly westernized by the rest of the monster world. It's a very bizarre tonal shift in the middle of this cute little monster girl show. Which, you know, I appreciated the fact that they felt the need to describe it as world building, but yes, yeah. And one of the guys in the camp who helped keep him alive gets massacred by the other prisoners for keeping him alive. So they think that he's like a traitor, or he's like a fucking narc to the Germans. Yeah. He was a centaur. But yeah, so the show is fucking weird. So yeah, monster girls. Many different approaches to monster girls. I like Kitsune. Like I'll to answer your question, which I don't consider Kitsune to really be monster girls. They're more in the what's it called? The Kononomichi group of just animal people. But like literal animal people are monster girls. It is a thing that I can only describe as something. Yes, collaborator is the word, yeah. Hey Thomas, welcome. Whew. Alright, any other questions about anime or my various thoughts on anime things? Oh, also, 1,000,000%. If you guys want a real takeaway from these anime reviews, an anime I 1,000,000% recommend to everyone because it is amazing, and you should watch it because it is amazing. Watch, it was an anime from last season called Miss Kuroitsu in the Monster Development Department. It is laugh out loud hilarious as both like a workplace comedy about corporate life and bureaucracy, as well as it's set in like a Sentai world, like a Power Rangers setting, where they're the bad guys who make all the monsters, and hijinks ensue every episode. And it is laugh out loud fucking hilarious. And the dub of it is also very funny. And the guy who does the voice of Ainz Algon does the chief of staff for the evil organization the main character is a part of, and it is so fucking funny. Dark Elf, I did Suka at the start of the stream. Slime girls are very good girls. Sue is a very good bean in Monster Musume. What's my favorite furry anime? I don't really know what I'd consider a furry anime, Zathi. I'm gonna try and type it out. It's Miss Koreitsu in the Monster Development Department. Definitely go check it out. It's very good, very funny. It's one of the funniest shows I saw that season. Another show I'm going to recommend, which is very horny, which I think people should watch if you want to see horny things. It's on High Dive, and it's Vermeil and Gold. If you're in my Discord, I always rant about how much I love Vermeil and Gold. If you just want to see a big titty succubus girl just totally making out with this guy all the time and throwing her tits around in a virgin killer sweater, go watch it. I liked it, Dark Elf. I will watch more of it. I watched the first episode, and the cover of Scarborough Fair fucking slapped. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. It's Fate, but hornier. That is an accurate way to describe it. Instead of a heroic servant, the main character summons a succubus, and they mana transfer the exact same way as Fate. So it's all making out. I think it was good all the seasons, but I always hear people liked only the 2 seasons. I don't get it. So Pixels. I don't really. I thought Sword Art Online was fine. I didn't really care for it, but I didn't hate it. I watched the first 2 seasons. I thought it was fine. I think Sword Art Online is like the Nickelback of anime. I think it gets way more hate than it actually deserves. Like, it's not great, but it's still fine. And when the time it came out, it was novel when it first came out, and so like you could appreciate it. It was fine. So I like Nickelback. I think Nickelback is good, and I literally watched a video explaining why people hate Nickelback, and it's actually total bullshit. And so I feel bad for them.
Memes, the DNA of the soul.
Yes, Harpy Girls are very good, and memes are in fact the DNA of the soul. Yeah, that cover of Scarborough Fair is my favorite. I added that. I've been listening to it pretty regularly. Harpy Girls, very good. If you guys like Harpy Girls, you should watch my D&D campaign that I stream every Monday, Ashes of the Last War. There was a cute Harpy Girl in that named Larissa Stormtalon, and guess what? She's gonna come back soon. So if you want to see a ditzy Harpy bimbo, loosely based off of Pappy, but mix it with a fucking Valley Girl, definitely go watch my D&D streams that I do with a group of wonderful streamers. Every Monday here. But yeah, speaking of Monster Girls now, we're gonna do a brief tangent talking about Monster Girls in D&D. So I am very much 100% the person of the meme of the DM's barely constrained fetishes in D&D, because in my campaign there are just so many femboys, like muscle girls, and just hot monsters everywhere. Yes, I not only play D&D, I run D&D. So if you want to see a D&D campaign that I wrote and I am DMing, be sure to come by my stream on Monday. And if you want to watch the previous VODs, every episode of it to date is on my YouTube channel. I do lots of wacky voices as well. I do my goblin voice, which is the voice of everybody's favorite goblin maid, Lowly Way, otherwise known as Lily. She's just a little cinnamon roll of a gal. You're now designated as Lewd Knight. I've always been Lewd Knight, Crimson. Fucking Godwin calls me that every time. The funny thing is, I'm not that lewd. I'm not ashamed of sexuality, and I'm not abashed of my own sexuality, so I'm just like, meh. Did you say muscle girls? Yes. There are so many muscle girls. Just like, so many muscle girls. You have to meet Jubilee's family, which consists entirely of tiefling muscle girls. But yeah, so definitely go check it out. It's a part. So I do that. That's like the most consistent content I do these days. I do a stream of D&D every week. Aside from that, I do like lots of arts things or this where I just talk about stuff. Hellhounds are very good. I actually had the idea of doing a Hellhound tiefling for like as a future D&D character because I think that would be cute. And it would give me the best traits of both being a demon lady as well as being a cute doggo. Loosely based on spite. Alright everybody, I've talked about like a lot of stuff. I've literally been talking for almost 3 hours straight. So I hope you all enjoyed this stream of anime reviews. If you guys really like it, please feel free to let me know, and I will potentially do this again in the future with more recommendations that people send me. I enjoyed the fact that all 15 people felt the need to recommend me shows. I enjoyed watching them, even if I didn't care for them as much as others. I'm still really happy that you guys opened up a part of your hearts and your fandoms for me to enjoy. And I hope everybody who listened here today enjoyed my summaries of them, my views on them, as well as my rants about how much I hate Gate. And so, with all that in mind, if you haven't done so already, please give me a follow here on Twitch, give me a sub over on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter, and you can join our Discord, the Eternal Citadel, and be a part of our incredible community. So my name is Obsidia. I am a Death Knight. That is my model. I am a Death Knight. This is my casual clothes. I have art of me in armor as well. It's a bone halo floating behind my head. I'll let you see the full Monty. So that's my full body right there. My armored shoes and my armored gauntlets and my pants. My arms do move, but I don't have my leap motion set up because my tits are in the way, and I don't feel like putting on clothes while I stream. So so there you go. Whoop, tucked away. Yeah, good enough. But yeah, I am a Death Knight. There's also Thixidia. Thixidia does exist. She is super hot. But yeah, if you haven't done so already, please follow it. I will be back here next. I might be streaming D&D tomorrow on Alistair Forgall's channel for the Waifus and Warriors group. We might be doing part 2 of my character who's a big muscle girl Oni, Tsundere. We might be doing part 2 of her story arc. I'm not totally sure yet. Otherwise, I'll be back here on Monday. We're going to have more Ashes of the Last War, my D&D campaign. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do next week. We might do more art. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you all have a wonderful night. I want you all to know you're all beautiful, amazing, and valid people. And I hope you enjoy sharing your night with me as much as I enjoy sharing it with you. And never forget the most important thing, which is that the world is better having you in it. All right, everybody. We're actually going to go raid, since I don't think I've ever had the chance to raid him, we're going to go raid another Death Knight. The literally only other Death Knight that I've ever seen as a VTuber. So if you're a follower, please copy down the call to hugs. If you're a knight, if you're a sub, please copy down the knight's message. Let's go send some love to Bran Geddon. Raid. what's it called? I'm trying to get his name right. Bran, get in. He's playing Alien Isolation right now, so he's entered the land of the big spook. So let's go send him lots of Death Knight love. And thank you everybody for coming by, and also thank you for all the new people who jumped in just for me talking about anime. I do a lot of great content. Be sure to come by for more. And I'm always happy to hear more ideas of things for me to do in the future. Alright everybody, I hope you have a great night and the sweetest of dreams. Bye!